Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we've got one of the classic and oft memed 1979 Alien. I'm Ross and I'm joined by my co-hosts Matthew.
Hey, what's up?
Ben.
Yo.
Ryan.
How y'all doing today?
Ian.
Hello.
And Christian.
Hello.
Alright, so just real quick, some stats for the movie. The budget is estimated at $11 million, and box office is $106.3 million. So for the time, it did pretty well. And because this movie is such a classic and has been displayed in many different forms of pop culture in the last 42 years, I wanted to start asking off, what are everyone's first memories or experiences with the Alien franchise? And now this could be with the movies themselves or other media's references to them or memes or whatever you want. So who wants to start us off?
I guess I'll start off. The first memory I really have of this movie was there's like a reference to it in Spaceballs. I don't know if y'all remember that.
Yeah.
It's towards the end of the movie. They have maybe it's even the same actor who does like the chest burster thing, and so that was the sort of first reference I really remember of this movie. And then I think later on, Diego, Christian, and we didn't watch them together, but like Diego had an Alien versus Predator video game that I remember them playing a lot. So that's kind of my history with it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next, and I think I agree. So Spaceballs, probably my first memory. I think there was a Robot Chicken episode where they made like a lot of references to it. It might have actually been like the Star Wars Robot Chicken specials, where they took like the xenomorph chest bursting scene and had that in there too. And then the Alien versus Predator. I didn't realize Alien was a standalone movie. I just thought it was like a weird low-budget science fiction series where you had like two characters. I didn't know Predator was either, so Alien vs. Predator was probably my first actual experience with it.
See, I agree with that, because I think when I was really little, I watched Alien vs. Predator, and I had no idea that there was a bunch of other movies that led up to that.
Yeah, I watched Alien first, I think, and I didn't know they were connected at all. But also, I think I watched Alien when I was way too young, somewhere around like 10 or 12 or something like that.
Oh my god.
And it scared the shit out of me, so I think I like kind of blocked it from my memory. So when I came back and saw Alien vs. Predator later, I was like, whoa, that's neat. But
So
when I was
a kid, I was a giant pussy, and my parents would talk about like not much, honestly. I can grow a beard now. So my parents, they'd talk about fucking scary ass movies. I don't know why the fuck they do that, because I'd get scared just hearing it. And they talked about like The Thing with like the head crab, and I'm like, nope, not watching that. And then they talked about the chest bursting and the xenomorph, and I was like, fuck that, with the little mouth in the mouth. I was like, I'm never fucking watching this movie. So I went really out of my way for all of my life to avoid anything like that. Like my dad had a movie night with his friends and they watched Alien, and I was like, couldn't even listen to it. I was like, ran in my room. So I avoided it until I was like a senior in high school. And then like my favorite video game series is Metroid, and that's like super inspired by Alien. And when I learned that, I was like, oh, maybe I should watch this. And I watched it and I was like, oh, okay. Like that was cool. Like that wasn't that scary. It's more like thrilling.
Ben, when you say that, I've always thought the statues in Metroid games looked like Alien. I had no clue that it was inspired by that.
Check it out. Samus Aran. Samus Aran is based off of Ripley completely as like a female protagonist. The villain's name is Ridley. All right, like the Ridley Scott director. You know, the Metroids are like the Alien, and in the second game they go through their like evolution stages like the second Alien movie. They completely base it off
I've never noticed
like, that's where it came from. Yeah, it's badass. I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For my experience with the Alien movie was back when I was probably like, this is one of the more nostalgia memories for me when I was a kid, was we went to Blockbuster back when that was still a thing and you had to go somewhere to rent movies. And we rented AVP, and Harlan and I's older brother was like, "We're gonna watch this," and we were like, "I don't want to do this," but he's like, "We're doing it."
Your body's not ready.
Yeah, and I think it was like I don't remember 7 or 8 at the time, and we watched AVP, and I was like, it wasn't scary, it just like put me on edge, and then I was like, all right, cool, that was a great movie, and then a few days later, or not a few days later, a few years later, my dad was like, all right, we're gonna see this movie. And it was Apollo 13, and that's where like the "No One Can Hear Your Screams in Space" thing came from, and that scared the crap out of me because it was like the whole like 2 astronauts go to the moon and get eaten by space rocks that are aliens too.
Oh, that was that stupid ass Apollo
Yeah.
18. That movie
Oh,
sucked.
Apollo
bad.
18, yeah,
That movie
yeah.
sucked my tiny little finger.
Yeah, but
That movie.
I didn't do well with horror movies. And my dad started poking fun at me and started talking about the Alien movie, and he talked about the face eater scene, like the face hugger scene, where like they have to surgically remove the face hugger, and they're like eating dinner, and his face just explodes, even though that's not what happened in the movie.
That'd
But, like-
be way cooler, dude.
What a lie.
But like
Well,
I just
why?
remember I watched the Alien movie last night for the first time, and
Oh, wow.
but I remember watching it. I was super on edge at the dinner scene. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is what it was building to. This is a culmination of like 10 years. Here we go. And then I saw it. And I'm like, oh, this is horse shit.
That's not horseshit.
Well,
That's
like-
a good ass scene.
It's a
Oh,
good
God's
ass
head
scene.
doesn't explode.
Well, like
I mean,
I
it's
was like,
spooky as shit.
no, because I was gonna say like this movie, like I was way more ready for this because probably like 6 months ago, Ben and I watched. Is it Advent Horizon or Event Horizon?
Event Horizon.
So Event Horizon, that scared the shit out of me.
That's a good movie.
It's a great movie, but like that, like definitely was like, all right, I'm ready for this. And then I watched Alien, and I'm like, oh, all right.
Well, I'll say like you're saying, you knew it's coming. I've seen this movie before, but the fucking like tension and it's like some of the best I've ever
they're
seen.
so-
And it made
it
my
does it
heart
so
beat when I
good
knew
building.
exactly what would happen. I've seen these scenes before, and I was just like,
Yeah.
Anyways,
I really
okay,
think
okay,
sci-fi
okay. So we
horror
got some first
is- I'm
impressions
It's
and
a
people's
great
past
genre.
experiences. But let's jump into the plot with Matthew.
All right.
He's gonna take us on a journey with that, and we'll pepper in as we go.
All right, so if anyone wants to jump in at any point and give their thoughts on stuff, just feel free to do so. We open with a shot of the commercial towing spaceship Nostromo.
nope, that's not the opening. It's
Oh,
not-
Okay, yeah, there's there's like a little text thing where it's like
a
basically
little text thing, bro. That was one of the best intros to a movie I've ever seen.
it was
Yeah, it was awesome.
okay, it is cool.
No, because like the way they do it, like they're putting the cast on, and then up at the top they're just doing line by line.
Oh,
Like,
you mean
one
that? Yeah, where
half
it
of
spells
A,
out
of the
alien.
A,
Yeah,
one half of
that
the
was
N.
cool.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And it
Just
takes
a
up the
stove.
whole top of the screen. And
Yeah.
dude, like, it's giving me chills because when that was going on, I knew it was going to spell out alien, obviously. But the longer it took to spell it, the more alien the word alien looked. Like, it looked
Yeah.
weird. And it's like when you say elephant a lot and it doesn't sound like a word anymore. That's what that did to the word alien. And I was like, that's fucking genius. Like, I was like, wow. Like, that fucking nailed it. And it's just rotating slowly
Yeah.
in space with,
It
like,
reminds
alien
me of
music.
Terminator
It's fucking sweet.
did something kind of similar later on with its title sequence, I guess, where
Oh,
it
dude,
kind of
so much came from
spells
this
out.
movie. Like,
Yeah.
so much has been pretty much ripped out of this movie.
yeah.
For good cause. I mean, it's
Well, I mean,
really cool stuff.
I'd say as far as like icon goes for the whole genre of sci-fi, whether it's horror, action, whatever you want to say, it's up there with Star Wars, Star Trek. What's that other one that came out before Matthew?
2001: A Space
no.
Odyssey.
No, it's the run that was filmed in Fort Worth.
Logan's
Oh,
Run.
yeah, Logan's Run. Yeah, yeah.
Logan's Run. It's up there with those guys as far as just like icon.
Yeah. But to get back into
Well,
it,
that's-
though,
yeah.
we have the spaceship Nostromo. It's headed back to Earth with 20 million tons of mineral ore and a crew of 7 people. And they do a whole thing where they kind of fake you out at the beginning, like they're going through the Nostromo and it's all quiet and stuff. And then you see the computer kind of jump to life and wake up the crew from their hibernation chambers. And at this point, we're introduced to the crew, whose names we'll definitely all know by the end of the movie.
Wait,
So,
real quick, why do they all have to share one bedroom? I know it's the
It's cool.
hibernation
It's
chamber, but they're
just
all
neat.
like almost
just-
naked. And
it's
that
sci-fi,
chair
my
is
guy.
so big.
You're in
It's so
space.
You're in space.
It's so
you
big,
gotta...
and there are only 7 of them. They can't have private hibernation
Ross,
chambers.
Who
Ross,
gives a shit?
Ross,
I do.
Ross, the best answer I can give you is it's a commercial freighter, and they're like, they do a decent job of establishing they don't give a shit about the people.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
And
It's
so they're
very
like, fucking deal.
mega capitalist vibes.
So
I
Very
like so.
much
You,
so.
I'm glad you mentioned 2001, Matthew, because that is the complete vibe I got from that opening.
Yeah,
of the computer
one of
turning the
the,
stuff on and the people coming out.
Yeah, in
Super
the
2001.
in the trivia, they specifically listed that as one of the inspirations. Like, they said the 3 inspirations for the movie were Star Wars, 2001 for, like, the sci-fi elements of those, and then there was a horror movie for the 3rd one, but I don't remember which. Like, it might have been Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something, but,
oh my god.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I could believe that.
yeah. But, so we're introduced to our cast of characters. We have Mechanic number 1 and 2, Ripley, the Captain, Dr. Dude, Other Woman, and the red shirt of the movie, who we'll get to later. And so they're chatting over food about bonuses, and they're like, I just wanted to know how much money I got, and like the mechanics are grumbling and stuff about that.
The most reasonable people of the film.
Honestly, them and Ripley at least.
Yeah, I'd say so. But they figure out that they were pulled out of their like course a little early because they encountered like an SOS signal, and so basically they if they don't investigate this SOS, then apparently they don't get paid, which I don't really understand. But
It's in their
mechanic number.
contract.
Yeah, and it's like, that's fair, but then later on they say something like, well, no, they're required to pay you at least 1 share regardless, and it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, but more money.
yeah, that's fair, but
Yeah.
mechanic number 2 is not too happy about that. He's just like, I just want to fucking go back to Earth and finish
There
this
are
shit."
only 7 people. Damn it.
He's mechanic
Anyways.
number 2, darn it.
Okay.
You talking about Parker, the black guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's mechanic number 2. So,
He
they
was
land,
first one though.
I guess,
He,
yeah.
he was in charge of Brett.
I
Come
think
on,
I did
man.
it in order of passing, so
Oh, well.
we'll get
I
to
will
that.
say, Ben and I were talking about. Well, I guess I'll say it when we get to that part. Keep going, Matthew.
Yeah.
It's all good, yeah.
Well-
So they land on the planet to basically investigate the signal.
Okay,
And,
we're there.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
All right. Glad we waited.
things don't go too hot when they land. They like, I don't even know what happens, but like something goes weird with the landing
a
process.
whole
And it,
breach.
Yeah, I didn't. Get that. That
oh
was
yeah, I
really
didn't
weird.
get that at all. Yeah.
Well, they
so-
said there's a hull breach.
okay.
Yeah, they
yeah.
said
It's gonna
that.
take
Like, everyone
it's gonna
just kind
take
of started
25 hours to
freaking out.
fix. Yeah, this whole breach 25 hours to fix. You know, they landed
was
wrong. They're a bunch
the-
of fucking mechanics. Like they're not. You know, I
Okay,
believe
That was the fastest 25 hours I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah, seriously.
Well, they didn't show all of it.
I know,
Obviously.
Yeah.
obviously,
It's a
but
movie.
They're
like,
probably
it's
exploring
just-
that ship
yeah.
for like 18.
Well, like I just remember the mechanics. Like, well, Ben and I were talking about the scene where they're talking about getting ready to go to the ship, and they're like, "I volunteer to go," and I'd be like, "If you're a commercial worker, I would be like, I'd like stick my head out the thing, and be like, hey, anyone okay? No, all right, we're out." Because like,
Well,
it's
and
just- no.
They say like, okay, get the weapons out, and then none of them have weapons.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like,
what
I don't
was
really
that?
know what that line was about, but yeah,
Well,
it's just a weird.
okay, so before they land, like they wake up the crew in the Nostromo. They introduce the ship with like a Star Destroyer style like scale where they put the camera right under it and it's passing by you and it just keeps going. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
Star Wars, thank you.
Yeah.
But like the crew is eating and stuff, and before they get to the planet, it's all just kind of like an introduction to the. I noticed a lot of this recurring like complex symmetry in the ship. Like the pods where the people get out, it's kind of like a flower, and it's all symmetrical in that room. And the walls, and the computer, and the two helmets next
Well,
to the computer. There's
I wanted
a lot
to
of
talk
like,
about
symmetry.
the computer. Straight up, just reminded me of HAL from 2001.
Yeah.
A Space
Mother
Odyssey,
or
like the
whatever.
whole room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of a neat.
Completely.
That
that was
shit,
something
I'll talk
I
about
couldn't
the
stop
computers
noticing.
more later, but
Something
Yeah.
that
It was just
annoyed me to an unreasonable amount was in the scene where they're having their first meal, or like a good, like I think it's like 4 or 5 of them are smoking. I'm like, no, no, like not because I'm against smoking or anything. Go crazy, y'all, but you're in a space station
Alright.
with limited like oxygen supply. You would not be doing that because you got to recycle that. So
See,
like,
now
that-
I kind of agree with you on that because I felt like there was kind of an inconsistency with the level of technology that they had.
yeah,
Because in some parts it was like we're in a spaceship flying through space and we have all this advanced technology, but then like weapons and shit, like
they have a stick.
I mean, it's
their
clearly
comm
what the
systems,
80s.
you could hear like their radios and shit sounded like
yeah,
absolute
but I
garbage.
think you guys are like they're not military. They're not this really high tech organization. They're fucking construction workers, pretty much. They're miners. All right,
True,
they're
but
on
if they
this
have
ship
shit-
They're
that's provided by the
miners
company.
traveling through space.
Right,
if
and
they
the
have
company
technology
builds that
that's-
big ship, and why do they give a fuck what weapons they give miners? They'll be like, yeah, here's some
Well,
fucking, I don't know, flamethrowers. You know?
But it's
Yeah.
also
But, like,
it's also the view of the future from the perspective of 1979, not
Poor people
20.
always gonna be
yeah,
living
definitely.
the shitty
Yeah,
stuff. I don't
But-
care what time it
but-
is.
The idea, like even like your weapon a flamethrower, that is like the worst thing you can give someone on a spacecraft because you know what burns really well? Oxygen. You know what you have a limited supply of? Oxygen.
Dude,
Inconsistencies.
if they had goofy ass lasers, this movie would not be good.
No, I'm not
They're
saying
shooting
lasers.
these terrible looking
They-
like
Well,
red
and that's
lines
they
and stuff.
they made a point in the trivia. They were like they can't have guns because then if they had them they could just shoot the xenomorph, and that's why they came up with the
Yeah.
thing of it shooting acid out if
Oh,
you
okay.
like injure it, because they were like, oh, you could just fucking shoot it and it'd be dead.
And,
But,
and when you go into the second movie, yes, now it's a military operation. Now you get
Yeah.
those people kicking ass and shooting them and stuff.
And it's
but
just
this
more
is
of an
a
action
fucking
movie as well,
Mining
But we're
crew
talking about
that-
the
why,
first
why
movie.
would you ever think they would need weapons? Like, what would they need weapons
I'm
for?
not
I mean,
saying
All I'm
they
saying
did.
is
I mean,
Dallas-
like, even today.
the captain said they had weapons, dude.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm just saying, like, a modern example today is, like, freighting ships. Like, you remember, like, the whole thing with Captain Phillips, like, a decade
There's
ago?
pirates.
Well, yeah, but
I don't
it's
think
actually...
they're space pirates.
No, I'm just telling you
The
that,
aliens are space
like,
pirates.
shipping companies, your insurance is null and void if you have weapons on board. That's why what happened to Captain
Oh.
Phillips happened. Because they didn't have any weapons. Because
That's weird.
I think
Insurance
y'all are
won't cover
fucking
it.
overthinking the shit out of this.
Okay, well,
yeah,
let's move
we're
on.
sidelined.
Yeah,
Alright.
I have a point I want to make about them going down to the planet. So as we stated multiple times, they're a 7-member crew of like a cargo ship, and basically that's their job, just moving natural resources. And why are all 7 of those idiots going down to the planet to
wasn't all
investigate some
7 of
random
them.
It was 3 of
transmission?
them.
No,
It wasn't.
everyone went down, and
It was
whatever
full
shit
5,
they took.
I think. Wait.
No, everyone went
No, it was
down.
only
to the
3
planet.
of them.
Everybody went except for Ash and fucking Homegirl.
No, Ash was in the ship that they took down to the planet. I'm not
Oh,
talking
you're
about
talking about the
on
whole
surface.
surface?
I'm
Okay.
talking about in the
Ross.
ship that is not. Yeah.
my impressions, at least, like, I mean, I don't have like a blueprint or anything of the ship, but my impression is like the whole thing, like living area and everything had to go.
Yeah, that was how
like-
I understood it as
yeah.
well. And the
like, that
cargo
just
part-
connected
that
to
did
the
not-
big cargo ship thing.
yeah,
Okay,
That was-
well,
that
if
was my
is
impressions.
what
I
it's
could be
supposed
wrong.
to be. I didn't get that at all.
yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me to send everyone down when, like,
Absolutely
what about
not.
all the shit you just got? 1 and 2.
Right.
What if something happens to those people and you need someone up there?
Then Mother
to
will drive the
do
ship
something?
back to Earth, and the corporate executives will go, we lost 7 people? Who gives a fuck?
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
At
I
that
don't know,
point,
man.
they're like,
It
why do we
seems-
even
seems
have
like
anyone
some
flying
plot
the
holes.
ship?
Right.
You gotta maintain the ship, but if they all get trapped on the planet, you think they're gonna really, like... Anyway.
But so they land on the planet. Shit hits the fan. They gotta take 25 hours to fix it. So part of the crew decides they're gonna go out and investigate the signal. It's woman number 2, red shirt, and who's the third one? I don't know if it's a
Dallas?
So
Oh, yeah, the captain,
Lambert,
yeah.
Dallas, and Kane, yes.
Yeah, I really wish you learned their names. God, this is so difficult. There are 7.
Man. Nah, it's easier. But they go out and their fucking spacesuits look really cool. But I read that
like them.
yeah, they're like iconic kind of to the franchise. You know, that's one of the things that I think about.
So my favorite thing about them was they were like little tea kettles on their heads, and then every time they breathed, the shit would come out the top like smoke. It was like steampunk almost. It was it was pretty cool. I was like,
what
whoa.
the trivia said about the suits though was that basically the suits didn't have like any way to really breathe, I guess, and so it says as the actors and actresses or an actress were working under hot studio lights in conditions in excess of 100 degrees Fahrenheit, they spent most of their time passing out, and so they had to have a nurse on hand at all times to keep supplying them with oxygen. And it was only after Ridley Scott and cinematographer Derek Van Lent's children were used in the suits for long shots, and they also passed out, that they decided they need to modify the costumes.
Jesus Christ.
It's just
this is just really random. It just like when you were talking about them passing out and everything, it made me think of Vision from the Marvel series. The actor who does that, when they're putting on makeup, they actually had like tubes of water installed into the makeup to keep him cool. Like, because of how much makeup they have to put on him to make him look like Vision. And it just made me think of that. There's like, that's insane. Like, the difference between 1979 Hollywood versus 2020 Hollywood.
One is just like a big part of it is they say it was like the studio lights that were causing the heat. Yeah, and that's something that's gotten like a lot better.
Way better, yeah.
Yeah. But from there, we jump back into the Nostromo, and Ripley and the mechanics are talking about bonuses still. They're exchanging some banter, and Ripley eventually says to mechanic number 2, she says, "You'll get whatever comes to you." And it's just like, ooh, is that foreshadowing? Who knows? But from there, Ripley decides she's gonna like do a little investigating on the signal, and we see some like binary code on the screen, and she's gonna feed it into the mother computer and see if it'll, kind of decode everything and figure out what's going on. The ground crew discovers the structure on the planet, and they're like,
hold on. Ridley has a line where she goes like, "Oh, it doesn't seem like an SOS. It seems like a warning."
Comes later, bud. We'll get there.
Does it?
That's later.
That's later. Yeah, that's after they find the spooky structure and they go in it.
They're like in the cave.
Where the signal is coming from.
Well, yeah, so they go in there, and like immediately, I would have fucking dead ass ran out of there.
Right?
Because like you go, look in there, and it's like, fuck this, dude. Like this looks like.
Honestly, throughout the whole part where they're on that planet, and sometimes even later, these people all had like big ass balls. No one was really stooped of anything.
No, they needed Parker with them on that exploration, so he could just be like, "Fuck this, fuck y'all, get the fuck. Are we leaving? Not fucking with this." That's his attitude the whole movie, and I was like, "He's the smart one."
Yeah, I appreciated the mechanic for that because it's like a man of class.
But it's at this point, though, that then Ripley kind of decodes the thing, and it's like, it's not really an SOS, it's more of a warning to stay the hell away.
That's stupid. I don't like that line. How
would she know?
Like, we feel the... Well, not only that,
Mother
which
had
is another
partially
question.
just, like, taken the message apart, I think.
Well, it's not even that. It's just from a movie perspective. We didn't need that. Like, we got that the shit is off. Like, we got that there's the tension and that it's going to be a scary, thrilling movie. You don't need to be like, "Oh, wait a minute, it's a warning." It's like, okay, thank you.
I don't know. I thought it was neat.
Like our dumbasses were just supposed to be like, "Oh, maybe it's friendly."
Maybe. What if it's Barney? Barney, the big purple dinosaur, ready to give everyone a hug.
We really needed her to say whatever. I thought that was unnecessary.
It. Okay.
So I actually really like the scene, like right before this, where they're on board the ship, and then they climb like what appears to be a wall, and then they get up there and they find like a skeleton that's like 18 feet tall. Right.
Well, like
dude, could y'all see very much of that alien? I had huge trouble, like,
decent amount.
Understanding. I could see the chest hole.
Did it still have a face hugger like attached to it when it like they said it was?
I don't think it did,
like it.
But
okay.
No.
I think this is a good thing. Like, I like it when movies make it hard to see what the crazy shit they're trying to show you. Like, It's
Right.
like Lovecraft, you know, if he could explain it, it wouldn't be as scary. You know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah.
you could
Yeah.
see all of it. Like, the alien ship was fuzzy, the big skeleton was weird, like, stuff was on screen, even the xenomorph was barely on screen. Like, I like that. I don't want
Yeah,
them to
that-
show
that
everything,
goes-
you know?
Yeah.
One thing
Yeah,
that's
the xenomorph was on screen for 4 minutes, and I agree with you, Ben. I think that was a good thing, because the less you see
Yeah.
it, the more it's just like, okay, you can build the suspense towards it.
Yeah, I think
And
Ridley
the
Scott really
actual thing
understood that
doesn't
in
have
this
to be that
movie.
scary.
on the
It's more the idea.
on the topic of like the big alien that we don't really get to see. Like there was a bit of trivia about that they didn't, like, the producers of the movie or whatever studio made it, they didn't want to include that scene because they were really against the idea of using like a really big prop and set for just one scene and then not seeing it for the rest of the
Yeah.
movie. But Ridley Scott stuck to to his guns, and to his credit, I think it works really well because he was like, this needs to be like the big moment where we're like revealed that, oh shit, like the universe is like way bigger than we thought,
yeah.
I guess, and that there's
And it was
something else
great.
out there.
Well, dude,
and
even-
so
When they
Ye-
first come up over that hill and you see the ship the first time, like that's an awesome scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it also just wouldn't make sense if that wasn't there, because, like, that would make it seem like it's the xenomorph ship, but they're
Yeah.
not that intelligent.
Yeah.
It would be confusing. I'm really glad that
That's
was
true.
in there,
That's true.
I agree.
But from there, we go to the like big old humid chamber that they find, and there's a bunch of egg-looking things in it. And the red shirt of the movie is like, "I'm gonna go down there and touch it." And so
Oh
he
my
goes
God.
down there.
Again, Kane is way too brave. Way too brave.
I don't know if
Anyways.
it's bravery or stupidity.
I don't
Just
know.
I think it's both. I think it's
I
think
would
it's
not
what it
do
is.
anything like that.
Is these are fucking amateur ass people, and they just discovered, you know, that the universe is bigger. So this one guy, I believe 1 out of 7 people would be like, I want to see more of this shit. And so he goes down there, and he doesn't have the training to handle any of this, so he's just like, ooh, I'm a fucking idiot. I totally
I guess
believe that.
I'd fucking run, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd
Maybe
be
it's just 'cause
not
I'm a
one of
big
that
old
7
bitch.
people.
But he
Yeah, 1 in
like-
7, I swear.
he's poking the egg, and it opens, and we get our first jump scare of the movie, and it's the face hugger attaching to him. And one little interesting bit of trivia is that the there's like these weird blue lasers that are going like over where the eggs are, like that were part of the ship that they're on. But it says the laser lights that were used in the alien ship's egg chamber were actually borrowed from the band The Who. Apparently they were testing out the lasers for their stage show and the sound stage that was next door, so it was just kind of a funny
That's cool.
coincidence, and they're like, hey, you should let us borrow those, that'd be neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It wasn't alien ship
Honestly.
lighting. It was like the barrier, because there's a layer of mist over the eggs, and right where
Yeah,
that laser
yeah.
is the end of that barrier. So it was kind of like part of the mist, and like
Yeah,
alien
yeah,
and
yeah.
spooky.
But from there, you know, things ain't going too hot for our red shirt, so they're trying to bring him back. They come back, and the doctor decides after a little bit of deliberating that he's going to break the quarantine procedure, which that's a little
Oh.
topical, given
What's
Yeah,
that?
it seems so dumb.
What's her
Like,
face?
once
The,
you
It
watch
literally
more,
feels like
you
Ripley's the
understand
only
why,
one
but-
trying to follow the rules.
Yes,
Yeah.
Did
she's
you
the
guys
only
like?
one
I
with
know
the
y'all are
brain.
trying.
Straight
I
up
know y'all are trying not to
OG for
spoil the
that.
plot, but did you forget what Ash's motivation is?
Oh, we'll get
Oh,
there
no,
later.
yes, but
yeah,
the rest
we
of the
can't.
plan-
Obviously, it makes sense later, but
We can't have that reveal yet, Ben.
I'm just saying, like, you know, it's not dumb.
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
seems
no, I-
dumb, and then you learn more.
And that's what we're doing this from the perspective of
no. But the people outside though should have been like, okay, well, we gotta leave this dude. Sorry, guy.
yeah.
Ripley
Nah,
was awesome.
no, like I'm saying, they're
in that scene.
amateurs. Like Ripley's the only
I mean,
one that's
you're
not
not
like
wrong.
doesn't seem like an amateur. That's what makes it the stupid stuff believable.
But yeah, so our friend the doctor decides to bring them on
good
board, and from this point he will be referred to as Dr. Dingus. And so
Or
immediately,
Ash.
nah,
Or-
fam,
or his
it's
name.
Dr. Dingus.
Dr.
Dingus.
So immediately from there, the crew isn't too psyched about the face hugger being attached to the red shirt's head, which is big surprise. It's like, no shit, you should have just left him out there. You know, it's like, because he was a goner. Let's just be honest about that. But Dr. Dingus wants to do like a wait and see approach, but the captain is like, no, dude, we just got to cut this thing off because like it's fucking sticking his little tentacle inside him, like they do an X-ray of him, and they see it's going into his stomach and stuff. So they try cutting it off, and it splurts
Well-
acid all over the fucking place.
But before that, they do the X-ray, and the Dr. Dingus, or Ash, is he says to Dallas, "We're assuming it's feeding him oxygen," and it's like, what? Where did you get that dumbass assumption? What are you
no, it's
stupid? If you're wrong, I don't know. Maybe something like a fucking murderous baby alien death machine might pop out of his chest. I don't know. Long shot,
Well,
but
hold on.
it could end up like killing everyone on the ship. You know, maybe if you're
But
wrong.
if you already went to the step of breaking quarantine to save this guy's life, he was right. It's covering his airways, and somehow he's still breathing. So, like, it would make sense. And if you're studying him and shit, that it's
That's a
supplying
big ass
oxygen.
assumption, dude. That's all I
No,
got.
that's not. You need oxygen to breathe. He was breathing, and he didn't have his airways open.
Well, clearly that's not what it was. It was impregnating him with a big alien chest thing.
And keeping him alive with
baby.
oxygen so that his baby would survive.
Just
Yeah,
long enough for him to
nice.
give birth to it, though. Like, what?
It's like
Right.
nesting. It's just nesting.
Assumptions are bad.
Right. But, dude, like, you wouldn't know that. Like, you just see how long science takes to get anywhere, so they'd be like, fuck, we don't want to do anything too quickly because we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe if you took it off, it would burst an alien out of itself. Like, who knows?
But they also
Dude, I don't know,
suggest
man.
several times that they just put him into cryosleep, and like
Yeah.
that would have frozen him, and then they were like, okay, we could investigate it after that. But no, they decide they're gonna just do this, and so they cut it open. It starts splurting acid everywhere, and it's going through the ship, and so they're kind of following it down to make sure it doesn't cause a hole.
The blood, not the facehugger.
Yeah, the blood. Yeah. So they're going down, and like just as it would have broken through the bottom part of the ship, it stops. So I don't know really what that was about. If it could like
Well, it was just a tiny amount of blood. Like, think if you'd, like, cut off its whole appendage, it would keep bleeding, and that shit would, like,
yeah, that's
eat through the
true,
entire hole.
yeah. But I don't know, or if it was like a
Well, and
defense
as the
mechanism type thing.
Well,
but
and as the trivia
Yeah,
says,
totally.
that's mostly just a plot patch to say, oh, you can't just murder the face hugger with a gun or something.
yeah.
I think it works.
That
I
wouldn't
think it
work.
really works. If we're to believe that this is
No,
an
it does
apex
work.
predator that nature created, then
Uh-huh.
yeah, I totally believe that its most defenseless phase would have that kind of, like, security.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then later you learn it's the what does the Dr. Dingus say? He says it's like the most perfect intelligent thing or whatever. I don't know.
The
Yeah.
most perfect
Yeah, that's
weapon.
a badass line.
Yeah.
Lacking in
so that
lacking
makes
in
sense that it
morality
would
and
have
thought.
acid blood.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Right, and I think it helps set up like the moral quandary that they're trying to go for, because this seems like a twist on the like, would you like, I guess, risk one person or sacrifice one person to save many? This is like Ripley's arguing you shouldn't sacrifice the many to save the one, and then the doctor with his hidden intentions and the captain don't really feel like they're comfortable resigning this guy to his death just yet.
Right.
They're trying to figure out how they can fix the situation. And
I mean, I
you have
honestly
to-
think about it like, imagine you're facing this scenario with the people you work with. Do you really think they're all going to be like, oh, yeah, we need to do quarantine and leave him outside? Or you think there's going to be two loud people that are like, you're a murderer, we're bringing him in right now? You know?
Well, even then, wasn't there like more they could have done? Don't you think? Like once they got him inside, they could have locked him in a room, like put him in the most secured, sealed room they had.
they were in the
as
med lab.
opposed to- Yeah, that they constantly
behind
keep going
glass
in
and
and out
doors.
of.
Yeah.
Over and over again. They open those
No,
doors
the problem
over and
of
over
They
them
got
again.
going
little
in and
masks.
out.
Like we got our dude
problem
in,
of them
but this
going in
thing's
and
attached
out-
to his fucking head.
What were you gonna say, Ross?
What-
I was just
Yeah.
going to say, my problem with him going in and out of the room was after they saw him without it on his face, which I know is a couple scenes down the line, but that's when I was like,
They didn't go in and
No,
out until they
in
found
that
it.
room.
Oh, you're cutting out.
Well,
Well, it's like they didn't have fucking surveillance to be like, hey, we should. They should probably know where the thing is.
Yeah, they
Like,
don't
should've
have
been-
surveillance on it, but they have head cams on all of the astronaut suits.
Look, it's 1979. You know, they didn't know all the technology that was going to come out in the next few years.
I
don't
think
know,
they
man, I
had
feel like you want to keep track
CCTV
of
by
the
that
foreign,
point.
the foreign life form that you just brought onto your, life support system, your environment.
Well, from there, we got Dr. Dingus and Ripley arguing about whether or not they should have let the egg guy onto the ship, and they don't really have any resolution at that point. They just kind of like, well, I disagree, and then they walk off. So eventually they're just kind of milling around, and the face hugger has left Egg Guy's head. And so Ripley, the captain, and Dr. Dingus go to investigate it with no weapons or anything whatsoever. They
just open the door.
Yeah, they open the door, and the facehugger's body, they're looking around for it, and the facehugger's body falls from the ceiling and sort of spooks everybody. And at this point, they're like, oh, well, it's just dead, they poke it, and it has a little reflex where it, curls up. And so Dr. Dingus is like, oh, we gotta, fucking take this back to Earth and research it. And at this point, everyone's all happy and stuff, because they're like, oh, okay, everything's fine now, right? Definitely fine, nothing crazy. So Ripley and the captain have a little, side conversation where they are talking about how it's weird that the doctor was added to the crew kind of at the last minute, 2 days before they had left, and they just kind of replaced their original doctor on really short notice, and it doesn't really sit right with either of them. But the captain is just like, I just do what they tell me to do, and then he walks away.
Well, it also seems kind of suspicious that the doctor didn't do a medical screening on him after that thing got off of him.
Yeah.
And also there, Dallas also says he's like, I don't trust anyone, when she's asking, don't you don't trust him, do you? And he's like, no, I don't trust anyone. And it's like, well, if you don't trust anyone, why are you letting him make decisions about this alien life form, which is, again, we've noticed it's new for the whole human race in this movie. Why is he letting this guy make every decision about it?
Well, and that's why, I don't know,
medical stuff.
Maybe they were trying to. I think maybe they were trying to imply that the captain knew about the other directive, but because then later on Ripley discovers that, but we'll get to there. And she's not too happy about it, but because he's like, we got to do what the science officer says, and she's like, why? You're the captain, and he's like, we just gotta.
And you can only have so much arguing in a movie for it to still be interesting.
Yeah. One, I guess, interesting thing to note that I did read in the trivia was that originally there was going to be kind of a, not romance per se between the captain and Ripley, but they were going to have a friends with benefits type of deal. And they were going to kind of reference that throughout the story. But that didn't make it into the movie. But we go from there to the Nostromo is doing a lot better now. They've fixed everything, so they're going to take off now, and they're not really sure what they're going to do with Egg Guy. They consider freezing him, but they decide not to, and that's a decision that's going to come back and bite them in the ass later on. Yeah. But at this point, the Egg Guy finally wakes up, and they all act like absolutely nothing happened, and they're like, hey, let's get some food before we go into hibernation. Let's just be joking with you and not do any tests on you or anything. Yep. And so they go to eat in the mess hall, and the Egg Guy ain't doing too good. And he starts
he just starts coughing
yeah, he just starts coughing, and then he's choking, and they're like, oh shit, what the hell's wrong with this guy? And at this point we get the fucking chest burster coming out of his stomach, and it looks like, it's just funny because they use that in Spaceballs, and I would have thought that it would have looked better in this. But they look. It doesn't look that great.
Okay,
especially when it
I think there's a lot lost on us.
When it pops out and runs away, that was hilarious.
Okay,
it's like when our parents showed us Jaws, and they're like, "This is the scariest movie you'll ever watch," and it was goofy.
Yeah,
the effects just didn't look as good. If that was the first exposure to that scene I've ever seen, and I didn't know it was going to happen. Because we saw it in fucking Spaceballs. That totally... Mel Brooks ruined our fucking eyes to this movie. So you can't watch it without thinking of that joke. And so it really takes away... I really wish I could watch it with fresh eyes for the first time. But it's just not, that's not the case. But I think it's still a good scene.
So it looks bad, right? But still, the suspense they build with how, Kane is sitting there freaking out for a long time. Much longer than I was expecting when I knew what was going to happen, of course, but he's sat there kind of shaking back and forth, spazzing out and screaming with that weird sound for I don't know, a minute or something, and it's much longer than your brain's expecting. So you're like, oh my god!
And the violence pop his chest just all of a sudden, like, there's not even like a bulge that moves in it. It's just like blood, like pow, like splats everywhere. It's just like so sudden.
Yeah,
It's just like, holy shit.
I do have some trivia about this whole scene in general. So it says the chest bursting scene was not filmed in one take, despite the myth. The scene was actually filmed twice, and on the first take, the chest burster did not make it through Kane's shirt. So the crew needed to reset and shoot it again, but the failed attempt is actually in the movie, since Ridley thought it made it look like the creature was like struggling to push its way out, and it made the scene more violent. It also says that so Sir John Hurt, who plays Kane, he stuck his head, shoulders, and arms through a hole in the mess hall table, and it linked up with a mechanical torso that was packed with compressed air in order to create the exit for the alien. And they packed it with animal guts and blood. And so the rest of the crew, like the cast and crew, weren't told that it was real blood and guts that were being used. So they wanted to basically get like a legit reaction from them when they shot it out. And so apparently it was so like disgusting and like like they just weren't expecting it, that the actor who played mechanic number 2, I think Parker, is that his name?
Parker, yeah.
The guy who played Parker, he went home in complete shock after it, and he locked himself in his room and refused to talk to his wife for several hours because he was so traumatized.
Dude, that messed Parker up.
That's
man.
fucking brilliant. Because, like, you know what would have fucking ruined this scene is if people were like, the women screamed and the guys went like, what the fuck, or whatever. But, like, you see the fucking shock. Like, when that first splurt hits, and it hits people in, like, the face and stuff.
It's
everyone,
fucking
like,
nasty.
stops. Like, you see everyone stopping what they're doing and just stare. And everyone's just staring at this happen, and there's no noise. It's just this, like, squelching sound. And it's like, oh, fuck. That is good-ass movie making.
Yep.
Well, from this point, they dump the egg guy's body into space. They kind of have, like, an unceremonious space burial type thing. And the captain is like, anyone want to say any words? No one says anything because it was all egg guy's fault anyways, so...
And I'll say this, so like it transitions, so you get that fucking gory ass scene, blood on the walls, bloody alien runs across the table, John Hurt is split in half, and then it cuts straight to like the cold metal wall that's like devoid of color, and it's just like the contrast between the two smacks you right in the face, and I love that. Like I feel like the movie does that a lot, and it always really works. Where even when they're walking outside on the planet, it's so goddamn loud on the surface of the planet, and the wind's flying through your face, and then it cuts to the ship, and it's dead silent of the person watching them on the ship. And then it cuts back to the sound, cuts back to the silence. It does that a lot, and it's the same kind of like, it lulls you into feeling safe, and then it just goes BAM! And hits you with the chest burst or something. Where it's like, oh, that facehugger died, and they're eating dinner, that's nice, and then wham! Like, I love it's good kind of whiplash.
Yeah. Well, from there, they decide that they're going to split up into 2 teams, basically, to find the alien on the ship. Dr. Dingus made a scanner that's going to help them find it. And they also have these, like, electric cattle prod things that they're going to zap it with if they catch it. So Ripley and her crew, which is Ripley, mechanic number 1, and mechanic number 2, they think they found the alien because the sensor is going off. It turns out that it's just the cat that's on the ship for some reason. They never really explain why, it's just there.
You own a cat on your ship?
It's a nuisance.
Sailors always had little animals.
What was the cat's
I like
name?
that
Was it
cat.
Steve?
Jones.
Jones.
That's what it was.
Jonesy.
It's a waste of oxygen, damn it.
Nah, I love that cat. You shut up.
To catch space mice, dude.
Yeah.
But, so they, like... They need to catch the cat anyways because they don't want it setting the sensor off later on if they're going to actually catch the alien. But mechanic number 1 is like, it's just a cat, I just let it go, huh? And so they
I
let
honestly
it...
forgot his name too. He's just kind of a stoner.
Yeah.
Right. He's like a stoner in Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, so he lets the cat go and they're like, you fucking messed this up, so you go back and get the cat now. So they let him go on his own. And
well,
he's
they
going...
say you need to get the cat
him to
because
die.
they have motion sensors, so if the cat's still running around, it's going to fuck with the motion sensor. So he's like, you fucked it up, go get it.
Yeah, so they send him on his own into this weird, like, storage room with like water dripping down for some reason. And, so that's all going on. And there's like chains and stuff rattling around. And at this point, he finds the chest burster's skin on the ground because it's like shed its skin kind of like a snake. And mechanic number one doesn't really pay much mind to it. He's just like, oh, and he keeps looking around by himself. And what do you know? He finds the cat and he's trying to get it. And who's gonna show up behind him? Ya big boy, the alien who's all grown up now. And
yeah, it changed pretty quick.
Yeah, he's a real big boy, but he fucking kills him, obviously, and the cat is still on the loose. But there's a whole thing where like the cat starts like hissing and stuff as the alien kind of peeks his little head out. And the bit of trivia that they had about that was to get Jones the cat to react fearfully to the descending alien, a German shepherd was placed in front of him with a screen between the two, so the cat wouldn't see it at first, and the screen was then suddenly removed to make Jones stop advancing and start hissing. And the slime that they used for the alien was actually KY jelly, for those of you who are curious about that. But yeah,
they also used shredded condoms to make his tendons.
That does not
his claws.
Yeah,
nice.
Those look real
I don't
nice.
know why, but
well, like on the topic of like
I
the
guess it
suit.
works.
They the guy they found to be the like guy in the alien costume was like 7 feet tall and like super skinny. So they really lucked out because originally they were gonna do like a computer controlled like animatronic model, but the technology just wasn't good enough to do that at the time. So they lucked out and they found this guy who was like 7 feet tall who would fit in the suit. But just an interesting little thing to note was he couldn't sit down while he was in the costume, so they had to construct a swing for him to sit on. And so he sat on like a swing whenever he was in between takes. But I think it works out well because like even though it is just a guy in a rubber suit, I still think it looks like imposing enough. Like it was just the design of it that makes it scary.
Yeah, and the good thing is you don't see it that much. It's the idea of it coming to get you.
Yeah, the filming is done in a smart enough way that you don't really get like a close-up of it until like way later, and even then it's brief enough that, you're not really, I guess, looking at all of the inconsistencies with the suit or like seams and stuff where they put it together. But, so after mechanic number... you go.
I just want to talk about the scene because this is my favorite scene in the movie of the mechanic slowly working his way through kind of like an engine boiler room trying to find this cat. And the background, there's no background music, but except for like this kind of heartbeat sound, like the music sounds like a heartbeat. And that's all. And that was making me think about my heartbeat. And it was like I was getting more tense and expecting something. And I'd seen the scene before, but it was still affecting me like that. And this is when you really start to feel like the ship itself is kind of turning against the crew. And like it's become kind of as evil as a presence as like the alien was. Or it's hiding the alien and it's dark and it's making these noises and it's creeping you out. And then you get to see the cat and the cat freaks out and the alien like schwacks stoner guy. And I love that it cuts back to the cat, and it's the cat's eyes. Like, as the guy's getting lifted up to the ceiling, the cat is, like, looking, and that's how that scene ends. And it's, like, one predator looking at another just being like, holy shit. Like, that's badass.
But also in the build-up to Brett's death, he's walking in that room, and there is that heartbeat thing. But there's also like, as Matthew said, there were like chains clinking.
Yeah.
But they weren't clinking violently. They were clinking like very subtly.
And then
like,
the pattern of the water
breeze,
falling. Yeah, and it's
That's
very
what's nice
slight.
about,
And
like,
and
you can tell how intelligent the alien is. Like you can tell how good this villain is.
And Ridley makes so. Brett
you're cutting out, Ross.
Am I good? Am I good?
Continue that thought now. You're good.
And Ridley is like, so Brett is just barely moving in this, and the chains just sit there clinking for so long. At least that's what did it for me. I was like, oh my god, it sounds like the spookiest, like, I don't know, graveyard or something. it freaked me out, man.
There's no overdone
so
music.
good.
There's no stupid sound effect. It's just really a beautiful scene. I love it.
It's so good at building the suspense. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. From here, though, they, after mechanic number 1 dies, the crew meets up, and they've deduced basically that the alien is moving through the air ducts, and they come up with a plan to drive it into the airlock and shoot it into space. And to do that, they have to, like, shut these different parts of the air duct off as they go through it. Like, they'll have to go through manually. Mechanic number 2 makes some neat flamethrowers, which are another, I guess, iconic part of the franchise, the flamethrowers that they have. But the captain decides he's going to be the one that goes into the air ducts and shut parts of them off to prevent the alien from going back into the main part of the ship. And he's going through, and this part is fucking tense. And, like, I didn't mention this earlier, but, like, when they were wearing the spacesuits and in this scene, they have, like, you can audibly hear them breathing, the characters, and that's really, like, I don't know, that just freaked me out, because it's, like, I don't know, just hearing that is, like, kind of scary, but...
Yeah, the sound design of just, like, breaths and heartbeats and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so he's going through, and one of the lady number 2, whose name I don't remember, she has the little scanner outside, and she's trying to, like, get the position of the alien so she can warn the captain, basically. But eventually the alien, like, I guess, notices he needs to, like, stop moving, otherwise they're gonna know where he is, and so he stops moving, and she's like, oh fuck, it's not moving anymore, like, we don't know where it is now. And, of course, the captain is freaking out about it. He kind of just, like, drops his flamethrower and, like, runs off into the one of the other parts of the air shaft after he's shut off a few parts of them. And, of course, he gets killed, but we don't really see that. But at this point, I finally am going to upgrade him from just being referred to the captain to being Dallas, because they scream they're like, Dallas, 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 like every, like, second, pretty much. So from this point on, he's Dallas, which, yippee, for a whole 2 seconds, he gets to be called his actual name.
So, and for this one, again, with the suspense building, so they keep flashing the camera back and forth between Dallas, like, not knowing where it is, like, he's in there, and he knows it's in there with him, but and they're telling him, oh, like, it's coming towards you, and they keep flashing between him and the screen that Lambert has, and someone else, I guess Ripley or something, I don't know, but they were flashing real quick, and they made it faster and faster and faster, that they changed the camera between these things, and the characters were getting more and more tense with their like, calls to Dallas, like, move, Dallas, move, and then all that stuff, and then he finally decides to, as Matthew said, like, run down that, or like, go down that ladder, and then it gets him. You know, it's like they built it so well.
They do, like, he gets down the ladder and he looks left and it's clear, and he looks right and the alien is, like, right fucking there, and reaches out and it's like, ah! And then
so, like,
that scared the piss out of me.
It scared me, the jump scare, but, like, as soon as I thought about it, I thought it was kind of funny. Just because of the way the alien, like, stuck his arms out, it was like, ah!
Yeah, like, the little goofy.
Like, he was trying to give him a hug. Like,
yeah. No, I agree. That looked a little like, wee!
The effects,
but I want to mention
with the other stuff.
Yeah, I want to mention the set design though, because the set has looked good this whole time. Nostromo looks awesome, but
goodness.
like when they're opening and closing the air ducts, it's like it's like an aperture, you know, and it closes real tight, it opens real tight, and I don't know how the fuck they did that.
It's
like,
dope,
that is some badass design, and it really, like, it made the air ducts seem like a new environment that we haven't seen on the ship.
And, like, he's locked in there once he goes in.
Yeah.
Like, he's locked in with the alien.
But the beginning of this also is kind of my only problem with the plot and the pacing of this movie. And it's right after Brett gets it, and then it cuts to Ripley and Parker talking about what they were doing with them and looking for the cat, and they're talking about the air ducts. Ripley and Parker say that they saw the xenomorph take Brett into the air duct. Like, they're like, we saw it! He did this to Brett!
Yeah.
Why? That wasn't shown. That was not in the movie.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Like
they didn't see that.
Yeah. There was, like, it seems like there was a scene missing. Maybe there was.
Well,
but
the
that is
original
the only
movie
really
was
gaping
3 hours
thing I
and 12
noticed.
minutes.
Holy
job.
shit!
So yeah,
What?
they cut an hour and 12 minutes to get down to below
God
2 hours.
damn.
So there could
Okay.
honestly, until you said that, yeah, there could be a scene missing there.
And I'm sure like movies cut out scenes all the time, and it's something you expect, but they should make it seamless. Like that was they mentioned something that happened off screen.
There is a director's cut of this. I don't know how long it was specifically because I didn't do any like research on it, but it did say that they added scenes, so that's possibly something that they address in the director's cut of the movie. I'm not really sure, but just go from there. We have the crew who's like super spooked at this point, but they've decided they're going to continue going on with the plan, and they're going to pair up in order to shoot the alien into space. And Dr. Dingus kind of just doesn't really have any good advice. He's just like, we're still collating, blah, blah, blah. And so that's after Ripley had asked...
He's the only one in contact with the ship computer.
Yeah, but at this point, Ripley, since the captain is gone, she now has access to the computer. And so she, like, consults the computer, and she's like, hey, like, what should we do, you know? And the computer is just like, I can only talk to the science officer. The new directive is to bring the alien in for study. Hopefully you don't die, lol. And then...
it's really she, like, overwrites the security, and it goes, like... True objective is to make contact with species and return it to Earth. And crew expendable. That's like like all crew expendable is at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see like the 80s idea, or well, I guess 1979, not 80s yet, but their idea of what a super futuristic computer would be, especially with what we have today.
Yeah.
It's nothing like it. And it's literally, it's like Google or something where you just ask it questions and it answers. But actually, it's more like knockoff Google or something, because if you typed into Google, what are my before Dallas died, he went into the mother room, I guess, and said, like, what are my chances, was his last question he typed. And it was like, what are my chances if an alien parasite impregnated my friend's face, and its little alien baby that exploded from said friend's chest 5 minutes ago is now rampaging the crew members of my capitalist space freighter? You damn sure get an answer on Google. You get some hits, you know. So
I don't know.
I just thought it was funny comparing that to like Google or
I think
computers
Matthew,
today.
you mentioned the design of the mother room. It looks like 2001 HAL room, and that's true. It totally does. There's like light bulbs all around it, and it's this white room, like it's sterile.
Yeah,
and it's such a cool fucking like. I love the goddamn contrast in so much in this movie, like. The Nostromo's air ducts, where we were in a scene earlier, were so cramped and dark and shitty, and all the circuitry and stuff on the walls, and then you go right into this like well lit, white, sterile environment with the computer, with the lights and stuff. Like it makes the set just like more cohesive and immersive when it's not all the same. It's like such cool different environments.
Yeah. But from there, we're finally kind of revealed to the fact that the doctor has kind of been in on this all along, and they start like fighting because she's trying to confront him about what's going on, and he tries to like, he's beating her up a little bit, and then he knocks her down and tries to suffocate her with a rolled up
like a newspaper down her throat.
Yeah, I couldn't tell what
he
was trying to do at first.
It was a little
like,
rapey, I'm not gonna lie. It was
Like
a porno magazine.
I feel like he could have just crushed her esophagus with his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's a robot.
Yeah, that was goofy. I'll give you that.
Yeah. But from there, the crew finally shows up and they help Ridley out. And at this point, the doctor starts like freaking out, and he's doing like all this weird combobulating stuff. He's like
sweating milk.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fucking weird. And so they're doing that. They fight him. Turns out he's an android. They like knock his head off, or like they break his neck and his head comes off, type of
A
deal.
little too easily.
Yeah, and it starts shooting all that milky stuff everywhere. And this scene I think this may have been one of the scariest scenes in the movie, when he's like talking to them and like spitting out that milk stuff.
Yeah, and his voice
and his head's
is
on the ground, and he's
it sounds like he's talking through one of those machines they give to smokers who've had to like
Yeah,
get their
yeah.
vocal cords ripped out. Like,
Yeah.
it's badass.
But so they're well, you can go, Ross.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and because you were saying how scary that is, and he's basically headless android, just his head's sitting on the ground covered in his milk blood or whatever, and he's saying, they're like asking him why, basically, and he finally tells you because, his secret's out, and he's like, well, my directive was to bring the alien back. All other directives are, I don't know, unnecessary or overwritten.
Yeah. And he had a fancy word, I forget what it was.
She's like, but what about us? What about the crew? And he's like, all other directives are overwritten by this. And it's like, holy shit. They just want this alien, and they're like, fuck you guys, you're just going to get wrecked by it.
I love that that's our introduction to androids in this universe, is you didn't know they were there until they knock a head off of one and it's milk everywhere, and you're like, what the fuck? And the crew was like that too. They were like, oh goddamn, it's a goddamn android, what the fuck? Like, they didn't know either. And I love that they never mentioned androids in this universe, they never said anything like that, and this is... You get it in like a shocking, horrific scene. Like, oh, okay, there's androids.
When I think about the contrast between this and Prometheus, like from the beginning, you're introduced to I forget what the android in that is. They introduce him as an android, and it's like, oh well, that's kind of not as interesting of a introduction. But
I didn't know if we were going to talk about Prometheus, but man, this does everything Prometheus did wrong, or everything right that Prometheus did wrong.
Yeah.
I really like this scene in particular because I had watched Alien at some point a long time ago, and I'd forgotten most of the movie. Mm-hmm. But I remembered a decent part of it. So as like these scenes are unfolding, and as the suspense is building and stuff, I'm not on the edge of my seat, and I'm not as, I guess, surprised by the things that are happening, because I kind of just, those memories kind of resurface. I'm like, oh, this is happening. But I completely forgot. I don't know if I went to the bathroom or something, but like I did not remember the android scene whatsoever. So it's like it was the first time in the movie.
I thought that was in Prometheus, and that's why I was like,
I'd forgotten about it too, honestly.
Yeah, it was just completely like shock and awe. Like that's how I felt like I would have felt if I had seen this movie for the first time in theaters. But every scene would have been like that.
Like I
really
knew
like
about
that.
the milk blood, so when he starts sweating the milk, I was like, oh yeah, he's an android. But I totally forgot.
Yeah, well,
but anyway.
So from there, they ask the android what they think their chances are for survival, and all he'll say is that they have his sympathy, and then at this point, fucking Ripley like kicks him or something, or knocks his head, and that like kills it, and Parker is like really fucking pissed about everything, so he shoots it with a flamethrower and melts its head, like the fake skin off of it, and it's really cool. Like, it's a really cool I guess effect that they did. But
like, we can tell now what's a model and what was the person's head, but it blends it really well. Like, it wasn't glaring because it's kind of obscured when it's not him. So I was really impressed with them transitioning, because it could have looked hokey as fuck, but it was good transitions between the model and the actor.
I was definitely looking for the transition.
From there, though, they decide that they're going to blow up the ship and just takes their chances in the shuttle, because before they were like, there's not enough supplies inside of the shuttle for 4 people, but now that there's only 3 of them, they're like, okay, let's just do that and hope that someone rescues us. But they decide
I like that because, well, no, you go ahead.
I mean, you can go, it's fine.
It's obvious. I was going to say I like that because a lot of movies, they might like drop that earlier, that Chekhov gun, and forget about it. Where it's like, oh, we can't leave unless we have less than 4 people. And other less movies would forget that they had said that, and it'd just be a big plot hole. So I'm glad they go like, yep, we're going to the fucking shuttle.
Yeah. But so they're going to split up. Lady number 2 and Parker are going to go get these coolant things, which I don't really know why they're needed, because then she doesn't have any later on.
I'm gonna guess that it's for more crew. If you had 3 people, you'd need it.
I guess.
I'm just gonna throw a bone to Ridley Scott on that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Fair.
But so the 2 of them go off to get the coolant things, and Ripley is gonna basically start the shuttle up, and she gives them 7 minutes to come back. Because by then the self-destruct will go off.
Ripley's been, like, awesome throughout the movie, and she's clearly the only character with a brain and stuff, and as Ben said, she's clearly, like, the protagonist, bad bitch stuff, and then she goes in super road. She
You're cutting out, Ross.
Go.
You give it a
Oh,
sec.
man.
I know,
All right,
sorry,
go.
no.
Never mind.
No, you're good.
No,
Go.
you're good. You got it.
Okay. Well, I don't know where I cut out, but
She's the badass
She-
bitch that I was talking
yeah,
about, right?
yeah. And when they split up, she just like, I don't know. She puts her hair up, and it's like, okay. She's like changing themes, you know. She's like, all right, serious. It's my turn to fuck with this guy. But you know, I was.
Yeah, I
hyped
noticed that
earlier.
as
I'm
well.
Not,
Yeah.
I'm not as hyped anymore.
Aw.
I just.
Well, I'm sorry, Ross.
Anyways.
But from this point, they're preparing the shuttle. She gives them 7 minutes to get back, and for some reason, Ripley decides she's gonna look for the cat now. I don't really know why, because she's got like a really big.
Well, no, she
know-
got in the shuttle and the cat ran off, and she goes, "Oh, the cat! I forgot about the cat." And
Who
then she
cares
tries to go
about the
get it.
cat?
I care about
so-
the cat. I like the cat.
So she, when she goes to get it, it kind of does a little jump scare on her, but she manages to stick it in a cage. So at this point, the alien shows up to our other crew of characters, and it kind of is like about to kill Lady Number 2.
Lambert.
Yes, Lambert. And Parker has a flamethrower, and he's like, fucking get down, lady, so I can use this thing and kill it. Or, like, at least shoot it. But the other lady is, like, petrified with fear, so she won't jump out of the way or just move. And so Mechanic Number 2 doesn't use the flamethrower, and the alien gets both of them.
Okay, am I wrong? Do you not just torch both of them at that point? Like, sorry, I wouldn't want to do
How
that
many
either,
times
but
do I
come
need to
on.
say that these are minors and they are not fucking prepared for this?
I
That's
know,
fair. That's
obviously.
fair. That's fair.
That's obviously fair point, but goddamn, torch that bitch.
Yeah, I know.
So at this point, like, you hear them screaming, and at this point, Ripley knows that they're basically dead, and so she starts freaking out, and she's running to the self-destruct mechanism, and she engages it. She's got 10 minutes to haul ass to the shuttle, basically. And even just her, like, setting up the self-destruct thing is, like, you have to, like, move these tubes up and then activate a little button, because they really
Yeah, it
don't
was like
want anyone to do
2001
it.
too, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
2001, yeah.
But she activates it, and now the fucking alarm is, like, blaring, and stuff gets, like, way more, like, atmospheric spooky, I guess.
I wasn't a big fan. They did this, like, the only effect on that I didn't like at all was this, like, epileptic fucking
Oh, the
bright
strobe light? Yeah, no, dude,
Oh my
I made
gosh.
I made notice to that. That hurt my eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I had to look
Yeah, I
away.
know.
Dude, it was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
my note on that was if it were Incredibles 2, it'd have a seizure warning. And
For real,
and that
dude.
bit.
Seriously, dude.
Holy
bad.
Like,
shit, man.
yeah,
it was
that hurt
rough.
my eyes.
My room was dark, or the room we were watching was, like, real dark, so it was just like, ah! I did not need to be in that.
But, you know, so the alarm's blaring, makes it spooky. She's still carrying the cat, which I know you really care about it for some reason.
I'd be,
but come on,
I'd be
let's
carrying
not.
that cat.
I mean, it's just slowing you
Dude,
down.
she drops it.
Yeah, but then okay. Well, yeah, she drops it. So my
Because she sees the alien around
my
the corner.
note, yeah,
she's like,
my
"Fuck."
note was that she leaves the cat as a sacrifice for the alien and then runs
Hell
away.
yeah, hell yeah, she does.
And so then
She went as far as I would for that cat, but yeah, no, I'm not making it out.
she like goes back to the self-destruct thing, and she's like angry for some reason. I don't really understand
No.
why.
Look. I'll explain it because I had to think about it too. Because Ryan said
Okay.
the same thing when we were watching it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna imagine that was the hallway to the shuttle. So she's going.
Oh,
She set the self-destruct, and she's going to the shuttle.
And the alien is
was
in
between
between-
her and the shuttle. So she went
yeah.
fuck, and then went back to turn it off because she couldn't get to the shuttle,
and
but
it
was
wouldn't
too
let her.
late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this
And then
point,
it just reset the timer, right? That's what.
No,
I think I
it
remember.
was 10 minutes, and then it went down to 5. And once 5 minutes had passed, you could not turn it off.
Oh,
Yeah.
5
okay,
minutes had
that's what it
passed.
is. Okay.
yeah.
okay.
Well, from there, she's like, okay, well, like, I'm gonna try going to the shuttle anyways. The cat lived. Yippee. She grabs it and she's carrying it again. So she makes it to the shuttle and launches it. And I guess the idea is that the shuttle is moving like really slow, but the Nostromo is still like hauling ass as it would with its engines on.
No, I think
And
they
so
were
it-
both hauling ass in separate directions.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, but then I don't know, because the window is facing where the Nostromo is going towards.
Oh,
so,
you're right.
So I think that's what they were going for, is that the shuttle was like stationary and Nostromo was moving. And so it moves and it's like going further and further and further away. And then eventually you see like a bunch of explosions. And it's like, at first it's like a small explosion, then a bigger one, and then a fucking like enormous one. And
It was badass. Yeah,
it was
I
really
loved
it was
that.
pretty good explosion.
And again, it was like a 2001 effect. Like when Dave's going through the fucking the gate at Jupiter and the lights are going by. It reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And they trick you into thinking, like, and obviously, like, you know, she's going to have to see it again. But they almost trick you into thinking, like, oh, well, maybe it blew up on that, and maybe she's safe now.
At this point,
Right,
it's like...
so it lulls you into safety, and then it's like, bam, you're fucking not.
It lulls you
Which
into
is like,
safety.
well, I got a spaceship to myself, and then immediately gets naked.
I felt real safe with Sigourney without a bra. I was like, that's safe. That's safe right there.
See, and at this point, I didn't remember that it was like a fake out, and so I checked to see how much longer was left in the movie, and I was like, oh shit, there's 10 minutes left still, so there's probably some other spooky shenanigans that are going to happen. So she strips down, like Ben said, and it's real nice, very nice.
She's got no butt, but they show it anyway.
No butt.
Yeah.
It was concave.
Before she can go into the hibernation chamber, your boy the alien shows up to say hello, and he spooks her. He's like laying on this thing, and it's real creepy looking, and she's obviously very not happy about it, so she decides she's gonna put on this spacesuit.
Yeah, what the fuck was it doing? Was it just sleeping?
I don't know, like, I think maybe, it was either watching or like, because I don't think they ever shot it with the...
I got two theories. Well, they kind of lean into each other. First one is, he may have been realizing, oh shit, this place going down, and like went to the shuttle, but I doubt that. And the second one is, it went in there just to check things out, and it looked like it was in kind of a nest kind of thing. But also, I think it was kind of out of it because when they took off, they caught some pretty hard G's, so I imagine he wasn't feeling too froggy.
Yeah, I don't know, man, because it was just kind of laying. It was kind of laying there, and it like sticks its arm out at her, but like it doesn't really move. It just kind of sits.
I mean,
there.
I think it was like a predator type thing, like watching her, and
So that's what
she
I'm
had
saying.
nowhere
like,
to go technically. So
I think it makes sense for it to go to the shuttle because there's these blaring giant sirens in the main ship, and I bet the shuttle didn't have that in it. So he goes, "Okay, here's quiet." Goes into the shuttle.
Also, it's genius.
I believe
right?
that. Yeah, like a cat would fucking do that. And then imagine you get thrown over the edge. You fall out of the railing at a zoo, and you fall into the lion pit. Are the lions just gonna instantly like wow, or are they gonna like oh
yeah?
Oh, okay,
that's a good point.
Cool. Yeah, you know, we'll get to that.
And then after she sees it, like the decisiveness of Sigourney though, like she does it slowly because as to not like spook the alien, but immediately she starts putting the suit on.
Yeah.
And does her plan. I'm like, what is she doing? But dude,
and she gets the harpoon gun, and then she like straps herself in, and she starts to do the thing to open the airlock. But then she looks at where the alien was, and it's gone. And so then, just as the alien is like jumping towards her, she fucking opens the airlock, and it gets launched into space, but not before grabbing onto like the doorway to try and stay in the ship. And so at that point, she shoots it with the harpoon gun, and it knocks it into space, but it's still attached to the harpoon, so it tries climbing back in. And at this point, she shuts the airlock door. Yeah, through the engine. And so it's climbing towards it, and she launches the engines and fucking melts its ass. And at that point, she does a little recording to say what happens, and then goes into hibernation to wait for someone to find her. And that's Alien in a nutshell.
Dude, so badass.
Sick!
I thought that was kind of a weird, like you had that badass with the alien and everything, and then she just is like, makes a diary entry like it's Star Trek. I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, there's the climax and over! It's just like, oh. fuck, okay.
Well,
She
I
just
mean,
gave a
that's
little
kind of how
speech.
this movie did you, you know?
After you go
Yeah.
through something like that, you probably want to tell somebody about it. When you don't have anybody
Yeah.
to tell, you might as well just write it down.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Also,
Well, that makes
I don't-
sense. It just it was a weirdly like happy ending for a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
in my head, I'm constantly thinking about the thing.
I don't think happy is a good word. Because
I hate happy.
Well, she's like,
she doesn't know if she's gonna live or not. Like,
Yeah.
she's making that entry knowing, like, I'm probably gonna die. Like, they did
Well,
not.
I was just
wanna take
waiting
that
for the
shuttle
like she gets
because-
into the bed
You're gonna
and then
die.
you see some like face hugger eggs on the shuttle or something. I was
Oh.
waiting for something like that, but you know, it was just like,
Dude,
oh, okay,
well,
we're done, nice, and it
I
was
mean,
just done,
but-
and I'm like, oh,
I think the entry and the way like she not calmly but blankly made it makes sense. Like after seeing all that stuff and then especially that last bit going through that herself, like her brain's probably not fried, but like she's probably kind of shook.
She's
you know?
damn
pretty
near
dumb.
fried.
this
yeah.
movie-
Okay, I'm gonna record this and then I'm gonna fucking turn
Yeah, yeah.
myself off, put myself in hibernation.
I guess okay. My problem's not with the recording; it was with that was the end. Like you ended on that recording.
That she lived,
That was kind of my
basically?
thing. Well, just like I don't know. What am I trying to say? Like
You needed a bad ending because it's a
no,
spooky
no.
movie
Okay,
is
here it
kinda what
is. So
it
the
sounds
whole
like.
time the movie's been doing this: you're safe, you're not safe, you're safe. You think you're safe, boom, you're not. You think you're safe, boom, you're not. Over and over and over, and then it goes: you think you're safe, so it feels like a setup, and you're like, oh, and then it's over, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it was safe.
See, it's again.
Like I was
tricking
expecting
you.
a little something.
It's
a little
again
something
tricking you
after.
though, because now
Yeah.
it's like it's one of those where it's torturing you by not torturing you. You know,
It felt
'Cause
like
you're
the
anticipating
ever
something
ever
bad
slightest
happening.
blue ball ever. Like just a little tickle, and then you're like, oh, I guess that was it. I mean, that's
A tickle.
okay.
All right, well, I guess we can go to the next portion of it. Do you want to
Yeah,
transition us, Ross?
for sure. So, one question I have after that is, what are our overall opinions on the movie? Seen it now? I guess Ryan, you said you hadn't seen it before.
I hadn't seen
the
it
actual
before,
movie
but
fully. But
I completely
for everyone else and you
appreciate the hype.
having seen it now, and why has this movie not only stood the test of time, but also reverberated through our popular culture since its release?
So I liked this movie a lot. I don't know about y'all. I thought it was really good. I feel like the effects are good enough that they still are charming, I guess, in a way, where it's like, just having someone in a giant suit, if it's filmed right, can still be kind of scary. And just like all the stuff with the ships and stuff, just with models, and even how the interiors looked, it all felt like believable, whereas like, I don't know, you look at something like Logan's Run, which came out not even a decade earlier, and they literally just filmed it in like a shopping mall, and it looks just like it was filmed in a shopping mall.
It came a long way.
Yeah, seriously. So I think this movie holds up surprisingly well, at least in certain aspects. Like, I'm sure if you really dig into it and like freeze frame stuff, you can point out the inconsistencies, but I feel like it's pretty good overall still.
I want to go last. I have a lot to say.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go right now. So my last note that I took for this movie was, damn, that was a good ass movie. Actually, it was so good because like I've only seen it the one other time when I was younger, and it scared the shit out of me, and I hated it. And now I watched it, and it's like I saw the themes and them building suspense really well, and some of the effects didn't age that greatly, but still, it's more of Ridley's ability to really create the feeling in the viewer of like hopelessness, also fear and suspense and all this stuff. I thought it was phenomenal. There is one question I don't have an answer to, and I would love to ask y'all. So if the company that's in charge of the Nostromo stuff, like the company that they all work for, right? If they sent an android with them because they knew that they were going to find an alien, because they were like, that's the directive. This guy is here to get the alien back. Why did they send this crew of like a freighter, a cargo freighter of just like a crew of 7 people who are totally inexperienced? Why'd they send that instead of like an appropriate response, like scientific or military response to discover this alien?
My only guess is that just by nature of it being like they want to see how the creature reacts or how it hunts, I guess, normal people. Because the whole idea was that they wanted to use it as a weapon or something like that. And so it's just like having it in an environment where you would potentially use it, against the population or something like that. I don't know. That's just kind of what I
completely get it, because think of it as from a corporate standpoint. So, like, the minute you make it a military operation or this really in-depth thing, people are going to notice. And when people notice, they're going to go, what are you doing? Oh, we found out there's aliens. What? And then the world would freak out. I think it was like this corporate somehow in their mining operations learned about the existence of an alien life and to keep it under wraps, because this whole thing was under wraps. Like, you didn't know about Ash, you didn't know about the directive. So they kept it under wraps and just wanted to see if they could bring it back and no one would notice but the top people who set it up to happen like that. And then they could research it, and then they could put out the new stuff to make money from this discovery. But they didn't want it to be exposed yet. That's how I see it in the corporate world.
See,
like,
and I could see...
You don't have a copyright on something, so you keep it under wraps till you can be the sole benefactor.
I could see a perspective like that, but I feel like for myself at least, I needed another, like, something from the movie to make that not obvious. Like, I don't want everything just spoon-fed to me, but something more to, like, actually kind of touch on that or explain it a little bit or make it to where it's like, okay, that's what you get. I don't know.
I like that we don't really have the answers because we're like a part of the grunt crew. Like, we have that perspective. What the fuck do they know? Like, why am I doing this? Company and the paycheck? Okay. And, you don't... Yeah. I like the kind of corporate... Like, it's subtle bashing of corporate kind of, like, indifference to human life or anything for the sake of profit.
It does leave you feeling more lost, I suppose. So, if that was done intentionally, leaving out the... whatever explanation for the android stuff, then that would make sense. I don't know.
I think it's something they expound on in later in the series, because I think a lot of the movies have like that central theme, kind of like Jurassic Park, where they have all these scientists and they're doing all these experiments and they don't stop to ask if they should be doing it. They're going for that, like, what can we do with this? Like, what's the like farthest we can go without killing everyone? Yeah. And they don't really care how much blood they leave, like, in its wake, as long as they get a paycheck.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling better about that point now that I've, like, talked to y'all about it, but it's still something that, like, doesn't sit entirely right with me. Definitely doesn't take too much away from the movie for me at all.
Yeah.
I feel like if they had an experienced crew to go, like, alien hunt, they'd be like, why the fuck are we alien hunting? Are there aliens?
Oh, yeah.
And then they would have to explain this whole thing. And then it's like, we want you to go find this apex predator of aliens and bring it back. No thank you. So, yeah,
that's another good point.
So Christian, I was going to say, what were your thoughts on the movie?
So I think it was really good. I've got a couple positives and a couple negatives. Negatives aren't really about the movie. I'll start with those. It's more or less the whole experience. It's something that I really wish I could have had the opportunity to watch for the first time in a theater without, like, all the pop culture that surrounds it, because it has such a big influence, and I've seen so many other things that all just have, like, ideas or, like, if it's a parody and they're making fun of the scenes or similar themes, it almost seemed... it seems more predictable than I would have expected with how well it's reviewed. And I think it was rated like the 33rd best movie of all time. And I definitely think it's a fantastic film. But watching it in 2021, after we've had basically, 40 years of people copying ideas or making their own brainchild from similar ideas, using this as an inspiration, a lot of it seems like they've almost, like, milked it to a point where it's not it's not the same experience watching this effectively for the first time as an adult.
No, I would definitely agree.
That's kind of the negative. The positive, I really liked, like a lot of the stuff we've talked about already. The set design, a lot of these like those themes that are being used so often. It's because they're good, right? It's not a bad thing that this movie came about. I think it probably helped take a lot of science fiction kind of from like more like Star Trek and Star Wars and give it like a breath of new life and take it in a bunch of different directions. And I think that is part of like when you look at like why a movie's good, you do have to look at its influence and its impact on stuff like pop culture or society. And there's just so much that has to do with Alien. I think you can just see right there why it is ranked so highly. I guess the one thing I've been watching a lot of Star Trek lately, and something that like always gets me is like in the show or in a couple of movies, like it just everything seems so tame, and like even the biggest threats that they face, like you just kind of know already with Star Trek that they're gonna get out of it because you know whether it's like Captain Kirk or like Captain Picard, like they're gonna win. It's it's this good guys win, but it is nice to see a movie that takes place in space. It's got some people. You're getting like instead of the like all these like senior officers running around doing things and talking about diplomacy, just like a bunch of amateurs just working for their
Red
paycheck.
shirts is Matthew. It's called Kane.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's nice to see that. And I think a lot of the decisions that were made in the movie by them, it's like that stereotypical like, oh, don't go in that room. What are you doing? You want to yell at the screen. But I think for the most part, if you're placed in that situation, like you just woke up out of 6 weeks of cryo sleep, you're kind of groggy, you don't know what's going on, shit's going to the fan.
You get rocks for a living.
Yeah, and like stress on the human body and mind, like it does crazy things, and I think this is like pretty good reflection of how, like, if Star Trek is showing like what the best space has to offer, and like, oh, look at this cool future that could be doing this. I think this is like a much more dystopian, like a more negative look at what could be. But it's also good to see that the commies didn't win, and capitalism is alive and well in outer space.
That's a message you could have as a takeaway. How about you, Ryan? What did you think overall?
I mean, my first time viewing, I thought it was awesome, and like I said before, I think it helped pave the way for sci-fi into the 80s and 90s and even today. And it's definitely up there, like I said before, with Logan's Run, Star Wars, Star Trek, all those things. It's kind of was its own spin, though. Like Christian said, Star Trek showed the good side. Star Wars was just like a classic story, and this kind of just showed the dark side of things, and that was spectacular, and I really enjoyed it. And it was good enough that back in the 79, if I saw this, I'd be like, well, I got to see the other ones too if they were to come out, like the one Aliens, which is the sequel, came out in 86, I think. I would have totally seen it. Yeah. So, like, great film. Would definitely recommend.
I didn't know that it was that big a gap between
Alien
and Aliens. That's sort of surprising.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Ian? Yeah.
Well, obviously it's a good movie. I think we've kind of established that at this fucking point. What I really liked about it is, the immersion that this movie really gives you environmentally.
Absolutely.
Like, it gives you the sense of claustrophobia when he's in the air ducts. It gives you the environment of how big the planet is and how big space is when they get outside the ship, and there's the wind and the environment. It just fucking blows you away. And even when they get in, like what Ben was saying so much about how it what's that word? Either way, where it like flips back and forth between two different environments very heavily.
The contrast,
the contrast. It fucking it kills you. And especially with sci-fi horror is like, I mean, it's definitely its own genre entirely in the dimension of like horror movies. I always feel like sci-fi horror movies freak me out more because it's always in space, right? So it's your whole area is just whatever kind of spacecraft you're on, and there's nowhere else to go. So it creates that huge sense of claustrophobia, the huge sense of you have to deal with whatever problem's there because there's nothing else you can do. Like, yeah, you can get in a pod, but you're still surrounded by fucking space, which is, terrifying in itself. And it does a really good job of just encapsulating the horror of being stuck somewhere with something.
For sure. All right, Ben, hit us with it.
So I'm not gonna hit y'all with a 5-page essay, but if I had to write my fucking thesis on this movie, I'd make it about like this is peak kind of man versus nature. Like when you boil it down, you can take away the setting and everything, and it's a thinking flesh versus like cold machinery id, like superego versus id kind of thing. And that's just like if you do that well, which is this might be the best incarnation of that kind of theme I've ever seen in a movie. It's gonna be fucking timeless. Even if that's not what you thought about, it's in the movie. Like your brain still kind of notices it, and it's like makes it more visceral because you think about yourself in this kind of this hostile environment. And I think like I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the phrase like the Clockwork Orange, where it's these two completely different things trying to coexist. Where the orange is this like symbol of vitality and fleshy and full of juice and alive, and the clockwork is like man-made machinery, like unthinking, just cold. And you put those together, and it was like you see, even like in the final scene, Ripley it's just her and the alien. Like there's no hiding, there's no fucking space for her not to confront it. Like you can't just go to another part of the ship. It's there, and it's gonna kill you unless you outthink it and use your own like the man versus the fucking nature. So she, comes out on top, and that was cool. That was a badass duel between the two of them. And I love that not only is the alien the fucking like the id and the nature and the force and the unfeeling thing, the fucking ship shines so goddamn hard. This is the best. This is also one of the best movie sets I've ever fucking seen. And looking at it now, I didn't see that as much the first time I saw this movie, but so much has been modeled after this like ship itself. Event Horizon, Dead Space. Like popular culture things. Like when you want to make a scary science movie, you look at the Nostromo, and it felt as vicious, as cold, and as murderous as the alien. The more you watch the movie. And it was so fucking well done. Like, that it really shined. I thought that was better than the alien, was the ship. And I liked the fucking body horror they did in it. Like, that was scarier to me than anything else, was the face hugger and the thought of it putting shit down your throat. Oh! That thing was so fucking disgusting. That was the scariest thing to me about the entire movie. Like, the xenomorph, it's just kind of this, like, force that drives the plot. Kind of like the T-1000. And it's scary in its own settings, but, like, the real horror I felt was with the facehugger. Everything else was just kind of thrilling. Yeah, I don't think this is one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen. It had moments, but this is one of the greatest, like, examples of set, score. Well, the score was all right. The set and the concept are some of the best I've ever seen in any movie, period. So I think that's what propels this movie to what it is. 42 years later, it's the most fucking iconic, like, space movie besides Star Wars. Like, everyone knows this fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sheer fact so many people know about it without having watched it
is impressive.
Well, it leaves that the end of that movie leaves such an open-ended question, and they were able to make so much more content out of it.
Yeah,
genius. Speaking of more content, so because we're not going to be, at least immediately, reviewing the rest of the Alien franchise, did any of y'all have any thoughts on said franchise that first began here with this movie?
So the only other movie I've seen in this franchise is Prometheus. I haven't
Oh.
seen Aliens, and I've heard Aliens is
Dude.
like really good as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully
MVP, baby.
we'll get to. I imagine we'll do these at some point, but yeah, I've only seen Prometheus really. So how about y'all?
This is the only one if you don't count the Alien versus Predators.
I have seen Aliens, and that's the only other one. I kept hearing about the other ones, and I'm like, wow, that sounds shitty, and I did not I did not go to see them.
Yeah, I agree. I saw Aliens at some point in the past as well. I think it's worth looking at again after watching this. I barely remember anything, just like I barely remembered anything about Alien. And then I think just like Ryan was saying earlier, that like the desire to want to keep watching the series or franchise just in general with the xenomorphs in it after watching this is another credit to I guess how invested you become within like an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, are there any other final thoughts from anyone on this movie
think that
or related content?
Wrap things up for me pretty well.
I forgot to
Yeah,
talk
we've
about
hit on
how,
a lot.
Forgot to talk about how Ash totally worked into my point, but him being the android reinforces the whole, human versus fucking metal and stuff. But anyway, that's what I thought. Yeah. They put Christmas lights on the bottom of that landing ship. That was kind of weird.
Oh yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah, it was like everything looked so good and immersive, but there were just like strings of Christmas lights on the landing ship on the planet. And I was like, oh, it's festive.
It ain't that time of year.
Festive.
All right. Well, sounds like we're going to wrap it up, y'all. Does anyone have anything to plug?
I am going to plug Hey Ocarina. Obviously, that's 5 E's in the Hey. Ben and I are doing a Let's Play series of Dinosaur Planet, which was the, I guess, pre-release Nintendo 64 version of Star Fox Adventures. So keep an eye out for that, and I'm also doing some action figure reviews and other stuff like that. But that's all I really got.
Anyone else?
Yeah, watch me and Matthew.
Yeah,
All right, well, that's all we got for y'all for now. Next week, we'll be checking out parts 1 and 2 of Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Thanks for listening, and always remember, in space, no one can hear you scream.